20 na naszych kalendarzach i 20 na naszych zegarach. Oznacza to, że zaczynamy zapowiadany liveset w Radiu 1.7. Nazywam się Piotr Nobis, a gościem naszego studia radiowego jest dzisiaj Alan Demsky. Hi Alan, nice to have you here.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Okay, so to kick off our interview, Alan, how do you enjoy Poland so far?
I love it. Absolutely love it. Completely different from Japan and a nice refreshener for me.
Okay, so what is the biggest refreshment and the biggest difference that you can feel?
That's a good question. It's just the culture is completely different. The food, the energy of the people, Western way of thinking versus Eastern. Mm-hmm. Both are great. Just I wanted to enjoy that Western side of me.
Okay, so you're originally from Canada, but
Yes.
you currently live in Japan. And I was just curious, what made you move to Japan from Canada?
Well, I'm from Toronto. I love my city. It's very multicultural, good people, good food. You get a good understanding of different cultures over there, but I felt like I wasn't challenging myself enough. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to move out, go to a country that was completely different from mine. So I traveled to Japan, spent like a month and a half there. I'm like, oh, this is a really lovely place. Really enjoyed it. Stayed with a couple friends over there. And then, I just got into the language, and I'm like, you know what? Let's start from scratch. Okay. Let's create music and see what I can develop all from zero.
Yeah, because I can guess that the language barrier was like the biggest thing. Didn't you have like any issues at the beginning?
Yeah, but people are quite friendly. They guide you, they help you. A lot of hand gestures at the beginning, and I studied quite a bit of the. There's like three alphabets. There's the hiragana, katakana, and kanji. So I studied quite hard at the beginning, and I can talk a good amount.
Okay, we're not just fluent enough to speak Japanese now, so we'll just stay with English.
All right,
for now.
cool.
But what is like this biggest difference, except of the cultural aspect, but the difference in the musical scene between like Japan and all those, let's say, English-speaking countries?
Oh, that's a very tough question. They're kind of similar, but in Japan, it's very, very organized. Mm-hmm. So everything was laid out for you. You don't have to bring an amp. You don't have to bring drums. They'll have everything there. You can pretty much write out the lighting cue you want. They'll have a lighting guy for you. You write down your set list, and they will pretty much cater to you. The problem with that is you're also going to pay a lot of money to rent out those places.
Is it really that expensive?
It can be. Yeah, it can be very, very expensive. And it took me a while to find venues where I felt comfortable playing and I didn't have to pay a lot of money. And I can actually pay out other musicians as much as possible. So it took me, I've been there 11 years now. So it took me a good 5 years to really figure out the scene.
That's quite a lot, I gotta say, like 5 years to get around in this country, especially in the musical scene. But are there like enough places for those people that don't want to spend that much money to get started in those venues, or is it that hard? Yeah,
you can find it. You can always play. You're not gonna really make anything, but if you want to start out, you can always. There are so many venues like Tokyo itself. You can do a tour of Tokyo and play 5 different sections of it, and they'll be completely different. They're completely different communities.
I see. I wanted to ask you about your inspirations, although I hate this question, asking any musician about the inspirations, but especially in the context because you create those like very, let's say, chilly beats and this beat type of music. And Japan is known, of course, for many artists that do this kind of music, but especially in the new J-Bass, which is, I guess, probably the most known musician from there. So what were your inspirations for your music?
It's funny because... new J-Bass, I didn't even really get into him until I moved to Japan. And I realized how important it was. But he's such a monumental figure in Japan. But when it comes for me personally, if I'm talking about this beat maker, trip hop kind of scene, the biggest DJ that had the biggest influence on my life was Mr. Scruff. Mm-hmm. And he's from Manchester, England. And I remember he would just come to Toronto and he would play Canada Day all the time. And he's the only DJ playing 5-hour sets, And I just remember looking at my cousin, and she's just dancing so hard, and it's like the happiest moment, and happiest moment of my life, just to see with family and friends. And he really takes his craft, makes it his own, and he loves drawing, he loves tea, and he incorporates that into his set. So you'll see while he's playing, you'll have these visuals of his dancing characters, and he'll serve his own tea at his event. So he really paints a canvas throughout the whole event of what his idea of a perfect event.
So like a very holistic experience in a way.
Very much. So it really inspired me when I do events in Tokyo now. I want to kind of try to cover the 5 senses. I want to do, obviously the music, but I want to have crafty cocktails, and I want to have amazing visuals. I play with this guy. He's actually from France. He's my main VJ in Tokyo, and he really crafts these amazing visuals for me while we're playing. So I just try to harness all those things, even smell if I can.
I see.
Hopefully good ones.
Well, if it's tea and coffee, because you're a great fan of coffee.
Of course, yeah. Yes.
So what is like your favorite type of coffee or type of brewing coffee?
Just a good black coffee.
Right.
A good dark black coffee. Yeah,
very basic one.
Yeah. I'm not too typical. I think, the coffee means just like good hard work in some ways to me.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, so staying in this theme of inspirations, I have read something that the most impactful thing for your music might be the environment that you're in. And I was just wondering, especially for a person living in Japan, or traveling around the globe, what is the thing that is currently the most inspiring for your music from the environment itself?
Well, it's not that I'm like searching for it. I guess like I just have to, when I create music, like I just create the music, and then I think back to why that music was created and what was the scenario and what were my thoughts at that time. So I have this new track pretty much that was written during the pandemic about how Japanese people are getting fed up with the government.
Okay.
But in Japanese culture, it's very taboo to speak your mind and
I could guess.
to disagree. So it's kind of like my protest song. Like I want them to speak their mind and say it's okay. You can do it politely, and you can fight for your rights and good things in life. I see.
That sounds like a really good and a great inspiration itself, I have to say.
Yeah. It's very important, and that's what's great about coming to Western countries is I can kind of feel that again. I'm like, I would love to share that with my friends in Japan and show them it's okay.
And you can at the same time feel those cultural differences that we've mentioned, and at the same time bring something new to the table. And as you've mentioned, Japanese people are not used to being opposite to any form of, not only government, but any form being opposite itself.
Totally.
So that might be something new that you could bring up, and that's really inspirational. I have to say. Okay, and you've also, besides being in Japan and besides being in Poland, you've also traveled around the globe a bit to different festivals. And I was just wondering if there was one that you enjoyed the most.
It's always a tough question because it's like people ask me, what's your favorite country? And it's like I can't compare India to Italy or like, France to Germany even, but like, the ones that stick out, the one that comes to mind right now is there was a festival in the east coast of Canada, and I just played a 2-hour set with the sun setting, and I just love that moment. I just want to play in cool atmospheres and everything, but it's not saying it's the best.
Yeah, but I guess the experience coming up from the setting itself, that was this sunrise, sunfall, and so on, right?
Yeah, whenever I can find, like, when I tap into, like, a certain moment like that, that's great. Like, again, when I played in Prague as well, like, playing this this really big, large room and, like, really engaged crowd, that was something special too, but different, you know. So.
Yeah, I can see. And there's also the thing that because of your music doesn't incorporate much of the lyrics, well, not at all, almost, I can say. I was just thinking that you could describe your music by emotions, and I was just wondering if you could describe your own music by your own idea with one name of the emotion, a specific one. Which one would it be?
One emotion. That's impossible. I don't think you can.
Okay,
really
so one combination of different emotions.
Well, it's pretty much in my bio. I always write the same quote. I've kept it for pretty much 10 years, and it's like lessons of love, sadness, change, adaptation are the themes of my music.
So I could feel that it is some form of maybe not only a progress, but a way of living, like going through the different events and learning from them and experiencing new stuff.
Exactly. And it's like, in some ways, it's like me writing down the chapters of my life, whether I'm feeling happy at a moment or, you know, sad from leaving even Canada at the time, or just having to, or developing, or like it could be anything, nervousness.
Okay,
you know,
so it's very like set in the moment.
Very much so, yeah.
How would you describe, because you do a lot of live shows, you do some form of this music creating live and so on. So how would you describe your personal process of being on the stage and creating those music and creating those live acts?
So pretty much I first, like, I guess I get to the venue pretty early, and then I feel it out. When the first, like, I have like an ultimate set of pretty much all my songs in one list. And then I'll pretty much feel it out on stage on how it's feeling. Yeah. So like, when I played in Prague, I'm like, okay, I kind of feel they would, you know, engage with these tracks. And then when I played in Warsaw, you know, I felt like, okay, I want to do this. I want to test this song. Like, I played a place called, and pardon my pronunciation, Humure.
Yeah, right.
So I wrote a new song called The Clouds.
Yeah, so
and I thought that was kind of, I'm like, okay, I want to play that.
Okay, that is really cool.
So I just kind of feel it out.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, you were in Warsaw, and currently you are collaborating with different musicians.
Yes.
Just yesterday you played with Matrzechowicz. There was a plan to play with Nikodem Demsky itself.
Yes.
And I was just curious if there's any artist that you'd like to collaborate next, or there's like your dream artist you'd like to work with.
Yeah, well, I met a lot of amazing musicians when I played the Prague show, and then a couple in Poznan as well. I really, really like their sound. I would like to talk with them more, and I would like to even bring them over to Japan when things get better with the pandemic.
Right.
But that's how it started with Matt. Like, I reached out to Matt. I said, hey, I was managing my friend's band. They asked me to help him out with the tour.
Okay.
And I contacted Matt. I'm like, I really love your sound. I would love to play with you in the future, but for now I'm the manager role, and I would like you to play with my friends. And he's so warm and welcoming, and a very good friend of mine. And he helped me out. I helped him out. I brought him over to Japan and showed him my world a bit, and it was very, very thankful for that. So
yeah, that's extremely cool. And do you like actively look out for those artists, or is it just like this moment that you just find them by sort of accident, and then you just think that, okay, your music is cool, then I want to do something with you?
Oh, it's like everything. Like when I was, looking for venues in Krakow at the beginning, I found I found all these venues, and I found Szpitalna. Szpitalna is in the city center, right? And then I was literally looking at all the events and all the artists and listening to them. Okay. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I just wrote them an email, sent them music, and Matt was the first one to respond.
Right. I see. So you must have learned about a lot of musicians from different places.
Yeah. A lot of people write beautiful, incredible, inspiring music, and you just got to dig a little deep, and it's quite easy when you do.
Yeah. Do you prefer like finding those people that are more popular in a way, or do you like prefer those more underground musicians that are just doing their job?
As long as they have drive and work really hard. That's the most important thing. Like, they can be a great musician, but I gotta also see that they put some form of effort towards the community, because, you know, if I bring them to Japan, I promise them a crazy show. You know, like I'm not gonna, I want to give them the best, because I want to, you know, to show my respect for them. So as long as they're hardworking and they give all their love into it, that's all I care about.
So give their whole of their heart in a way.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, and was it like talking about this community, because the musical scene and the community in Japan is quite different, and you as a foreigner in a way, was it you told that it took you like 5 years to get around the venues, but I was wondering, how was it going into this community of different people and different cultural aspects?
So before I went to Japan, I went on SoundCloud and I did the same thing. I searched for Japanese artists, and I came across this one drummer named Tommy Wealth. Highly recommend. He's a really good friend of mine. And I wrote him in my very beginner Japanese, and he was very accepting. And we practiced together. We communicate only through music.
Yeah, so it is a form of like universal language.
It was like absolutely incredible, and he really liked my sound. We played for like 4 years together, and then I got really lucky. Like a bunch of Japanese bookers that live in Germany brought us out to Germany, and that's how I got kind of connected in the Euro scene in Germany, Italy, and Czechia.
So it is a way of like the Japan seems, for me, from what you've said, like a great and very fertile ground for musicians and artists to start their careers and to just make their first steps in this direction.
It's, you know, every place is. It's just it just really depends on your drive and your consistency to keep going for it.
Okay.
And I love Tommy very much. He's a good friend of mine, but I wish like we have very different drive. Let's just say that. But he's still a good friend, and I kept all the contacts in Germany and Czechia, and used them for this. And now I'm building more of the community in Poland, and I hope to grow these communities. So, you know, we're just a bunch of friends helping out each other, and we can really. It's a family. It's a very hippie-like, but very hippie love, share.
Yeah, but seems like a very beautiful dream.
Yeah, and it's possible, and it's just when you have good, motivated people like Nikudem is a treat to work with. Matt is a treat to work with. It's possible. It's really easy, actually. Okay,
so going a little bit till the end of our interview, I wanted to ask about your plans for the future, because for now you're here in Krakow, you're playing in Paon. In a few days you're going to play in Gdańsk, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And what are your plans for the future? Not only in terms of like live performances, but also in terms of the recordings, because you've just released your album in 2021, and I'm curious, what are your next plans?
So I actually, while I was here, I also recorded for the next EP, which will maybe I'll release it in maybe in the summer, probably fall, winter. Like, I don't want to rush the project. I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna focus a bit more on Japan. I just started playing all across the country, so focus on some of the smaller islands like Kyushu, Shikoku, and then I'm going to really step down. I used to play in Tokyo every month. Right now I'm going to try to do it once every 2 months, so I can really make all those events like really unique and special.
Okay.
And and the goal is come back here and hopefully hit up the festival circuit and hit up a couple dates as well.
I hope you will have a lot of luck with that.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so too.